Welcome, impactful parents. It's Kristina, and today is one of those episodes where I'm going to talk off the top of my head, very impromptu. And today I got a concept that I wanted to break down with you. It starts with a video that, of course, I saw on TikTok, but it intrigued something inside of me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to share it with you. If you have a strong-willed child or a teenager, this episode is absolutely for you. And it's all based off a video that I saw on TikTok that I wanted to break down because I think it's really valuable. Here's the video.
No matter what someone does, they don't betray you or do something wrong. They simply act differently than you expected. Every disappointment comes from your own expectations, not their actions. This is day 11 of solving all your problems with psychology. Every disappointment you feel is just expectation violation. Your brain projected your own values onto someone else, and then got shocked when they acted from their own values. This is called projection bias. We assume others think like us, care like us, would make the same choices we would. But people don't act based on your values. They act based on their mental models, their needs, their past, and when they disappoint you, your brain doesn't just feel pain, it takes it personal. Your limbic system interprets their behavior as rejection, as threat. So you question your worth and the relationship, but it was never about you. The fix isn't to trust less, it's to expect less and observe more. Next time you feel let down, pause. Ask, did they actually break a promise? Or did I just expect them to be someone they never claimed to be? This reframing activates your prefrontal cortex, overriding your emotional limbic response. Over time, it rewires your brain to separate what people do from what you wanted them to do.
All right, let's break down this video because the first thing that the video talks about is that people don't betray you. They just act differently than what you expected. And this couldn't be more true than with your teenager so many times, right? How many times have our teenagers done something that we're like, why did you do that? I told you to do this. Or what are you doing with, on your phone and you just don't even care about anything else and all you want to be is on. There are so many behaviors that our teenagers do or our strong-willed children that we just don't get. And we're like, what's going on? We've trying to guide them this direction, but then they're acting differently. And we have to remember that especially with our teens, we have this young adult, this really independent person who doesn't want to follow our rules and everything we say all the time and is really trying to grab some autonomy in their life and figure out who they are. So when they do something that we just don't understand, it's not necessarily that they are betraying us. They're just acting differently than what we expected. And then the video goes on to talk about it's all because of our expectations, right? We expected our children to comply. We expected them to make the right choice. We expected them to know better. And when we have all these expectations, it is so easy to get let down. It is so easy for our expectations to be way up high and our kids to be like, I'm not going to hit that expectation because I'm trying to do my own thing. I'm trying to create my own autonomy. So honestly, it is our expectations as parents is that letting us down. It's not the kid that's letting us down. It's our expectation that's letting us down, which means we're kind of letting ourselves down. Now, let me explain this a little bit because I know there are people who are not going to agree with me here, but it is us who is creating those expectations that we really thought our kid would know better, do right, be better, understand. That's our expectation. We put that into place, not our child. So what created these expectations that we are creating and manifesting in our own head? And a lot of that is that we're projecting our own value on our children. And the video talks about that. We're projecting our values on them. Now, the video goes on to say that maybe we shouldn't do that. Now, I'm going to disagree slightly with the video here and say that's all part of parenting. Of course, we project our values on our kids. We're trying to mold them and teach them the right way, right from wrong, how to make good decisions. That is what parenting is. We put our values into our kids and we're hoping that they accept those values and make better choices for themselves. So whatever those values might be, whether we're religious people and we expect our kids to, believe in our higher faith, or maybe we expect them to take academics seriously because we really value education. No matter what it is that we value so badly and we're projecting on our children, those things is what really is that core foundation of all those expectations that we have. Now, I'm not saying don't put those values on your kids, right? That's parenting. But how do we navigate this if we don't want to have these expectations and let ourselves down, and at the same time teach values? And I think this is where the video goes on to say that people act on their own values and needs, and that's how they make their choices. And so although we have tried to instill our own values onto our kids, in the end, it is really truly their choice whether they accept those values. Will they accept the higher being that we believe in and we want them to also believe in? Will they accept that education is really, really valuable and that they should do really well in school? Or in their own experiences, do they find that, school really isn't all that important to me? And when they start thinking like that and creating their own value system, even though we've tried to convince them into this other way, when they start having their own values and their own needs about things, like, I want to be on my electronic. My value is that I need some time on that and I don't want to do homework. They're creating their own values, their own choices there. And they're acting upon them according to those values and needs. And what do we do as parents? Just like the video said, we take it personally. We say, hey, how come you didn't internalize these values that I'm trying to instill in you? How come you don't see that education is super important and that you can't be on your electronics too much, or that there's a higher being, or whatever your values might be? How come you're not accepting it? And we take that so personally inside, like, you're not listening to me. You're not paying attention. Why are you not being compliant? Why don't you understand the importance of what I'm trying to instill in you? And again, it goes back to our expectations being in confrontation with our children's own values and needs, and which they are acting upon. Now, the video goes on to say that the key to all of this, the key to solving it, is to expect less and observe more. Okay, I'm gonna disagree slightly with this and say, as parents, I don't know if we should expect less. I feel like we still want to instill our values and, put those lessons into our kids. That's what parenting is. But I do agree that we need to observe a lot more. Sometimes when we take things personally, we shut down as parents and say, why aren't you listening to me? And now we're throwing fingers at our kid going, why are you not doing this? What is wrong with you for not getting your homework done? What's wrong with you for not believing in this higher power? What's wrong with you for thinking that electronics all the time is okay? Instead of pointing all that finger and saying, hey, and doing a lot of the blaming game and taking it personally, this is where we need to observe more. Where is this behavior coming from? Where is the disconnect in what I value and what I'm trying to get you to do, and your values and what you're trying to do? Where is the disconnect there? And again, I'm going to use the example of electronics because this is a value system that so many parents are battling with on the daily, right? Parents know they need to limit electronic time. Parents know that it's not good for kids to be on electronics and a screen all the time. But the child, the child has a different value system, that this electronic is my gateway to knowledge. This electronic system is the dopamine rush that I need to feel good. This electronic system is the communication to get to all of my friends. See, they value their screen time in a different way than how we devalue it. And this is where we start having to observe more and ask questions. So when our child is not being compliant and they're not going with what we'd like them to do, and our expectations are being not met, pause. I love how the video says this is when we need to pause and ask questions. And instead of going off the handle and taking it personally, we go, wait a second. Your values are not in alignment with my values. And since I know you act on your own values and your own needs, there's definitely a disconnect here. How do we get reconnected? Or how do I need to approach this differently and not personally so that you'll see the bigger value system that I'm trying to teach you, that electronics is not necessarily that good for you if you're on it too much. So we start asking questions. Why is it so important for you to be on? And you might speculate that you know that they just want to talk on their phone and be with friends. But more than that, what are they getting out of it? Really understand their value system behind whatever it is the disagreement is. Ask those critical questions. And I love also how the video ends by suggesting that we separate what your child does from what you wanted them to do. And this is just good parenting practice where it's so easy to take things personally, however your child acts, because let's be honest, our kids are still a reflection upon us. We don't want them to be, and it's not necessarily fair for us to have that upon them, but it's how a lot of people feel. When your child acts badly, we're embarrassed as parents because we're like, that's a reflection of us. The people are going to think I'm a bad parent. People are going to think that I didn't teach them the right way. Veteran parents know that it's not necessarily the parent's fault when a child makes really bad choices. There are plenty of kids out there who come from really, really, really good families, really, really good parental guidance, and the kid still chooses a different path that does not live up to the parent's expectation because they're living and making choices from their own value system, right? And their own needs. And so this is what we have to do on a micro level in our own home. We have to separate this feeling of, you're not listening to me, and really watch, what is your child doing? What is their value system? What are their needs that is making them make this particular choice? Because you may not like that choice. So why are they doing it? Why? Why are they doing that choice? There's the rub. Asking these really critical questions, sitting down with your child and saying, tell me more about why this is so important to you. Tell me more about how you made that choice, how you came up with it. What did you expect to happen? What was your hope? Would you do it differently next time now that you know? Asking these questions gets to know your child, not only on a much deeper level, but then it gives you an understanding of where they're coming from and how you can also adjust your parenting so that you can be more influential and maybe get them to make different choices. That's never going to happen if we're taking it personally and we're saying, no, why are they making that choice? I don't understand. And feeling hurt that they didn't listen to us. So separate what your child does from what you wanted them to do. I think this applies really significantly, and I see it the most often around grades, where a child doesn't want to do well or doesn't have the tenacity or grit to perform well academically in school. They don't want to spend the time to do all the studying and all the homework and all the whatever, because whatever reason their value system says, they want to value maybe their screen more, maybe they want to value rest more, maybe they want to value social time more. Maybe it's just hard for them to concentrate because their brain works differently. Whatever it is they're choosing, I see this the most in academics, where here's the parent saying, my child is not doing well in school, and they take it personally, and it doesn't have to do with the parent at all. Your child isn't trying to piss you off. Your child isn't trying to fail out. They just have a different value system than you do, and you're getting increasingly more angry because you know the repercussions of that. You can see down the road and see where that path leads. So we increasingly get more frustrated. We start taking things personally, and we honestly, in most of these circumstances, we lose the relationship with our kids because we don't ask the questions and we start accusing and we start forcing the issue. You have to do your homework right now. You have to study. You have to do this. And I'm going to take away everything else in your life until this gets done because I know better and you need to do this. And I'm not saying that's not wrong. Maybe your child needs that. But what I am saying is that when you pause for a moment and you don't take it personally and you start asking questions and you start figuring out why is your child making these big choices that may not benefit them in the long run, you get a better understanding of at least of where they're coming from. And then hopefully you can parent better. You can be more influential because now you can meet them where they're at. Instead of domineering it, now it's a collaboration to turn things around, to figure out how can we meet in the middle here, to figure out how can I get you motivated. There's a lot in that video. And I feel like I've been rambling and I'm not explaining myself very well, but like all these candid videos that I like to do for you so you can know that I'm thinking off the top of my head and I'm really presenting these eyes in a different and unique way. I hope that you understand where I'm coming from. And the next time that your child makes a choice that is undesirable to you and doesn't meet your expectations, then you can stop, pause, and consider, where is the disconnect in our value system? Where's the disconnect between what I value and what my kid values? Because if you can do that, then you can figure out their choices and why they're making them. And then hopefully help them to change if that's what they need. And if they don't need to change, sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's more about us changing, right? Us accepting maybe our kid for the unique, amazing person that they are, depending on the situation. Parenting is complicated. And there's so many things to consider, and there is no one right answer. But I hope that this video gives you a different perspective on how your child makes choices, especially when they're the choices that maybe we wouldn't have made for them.